And yo, the Canadian government seems like they're on one, bro. Like every time we look at like the food situation in Canada, it keeps getting worse. Like you go into a Loblaws nowadays, bro, and it's like mad expensive just to buy. It's actually to the point where vegetables now are almost more expensive than meat, my dog. Like,
It's just our standard was often like that, depending on where it comes from. But you know, the reason why they're really doing that is because everyone's fat and they need to control their intake. So
we need to input Weird Al Yankovic's "I'm fat" right here.
sure, but yeah, it's just like
Well,
if you can't afford as much food, then you're gonna starve a little bit, and then you're gonna
well,
feel.
I'm gonna input a video here that we're gonna actually add to this so you can see what's happening. What's reaction? And as I was saying, like we've seen this guy Sammy now going through all of this situation. He's created a farmers market to actually combat food, what he calls food scarcity, and the ability to actually create farmers markets where a bunch of food that he's getting from these vendors are what he would like to call discounted food or food that wouldn't be like has slight blemishes that wouldn't be able to be sold in direct markets, and he's taking that food and asking all of the vendors to come in less than superstore, and then he sells it at a discount so families by the hundreds can get their fill of fruits and vegetables. What are your thoughts?
First of all, I'm surprised you keep referring to him as Sammy when he's known as Gagan.
Oh, sorry, I apologize.
So yeah, at the end of the day, people are like, "Who is this Sammy guy?" But anyways, yeah, no, it's kind of cool that he's going out there and like advocating for local agriculture and kind of just creating like community. I think that's admirable because there's a
Like
lot of
he's hero material, bro. Like this is the kind of thing I really, really, really resonate with because like I have a kid and I find it more and more expensive to go to the grocery store and like try and make a decision on what do you want to eat based on like what's in your wallet.
true, and from a personal level, it helps a lot of people, but I think it goes a lot more beyond that, right? Like he's creating awareness, he's creating platforms. We go through a lot of food waste. You see a lot of stuff on TikTok where
Hmm.
it's just like you go to like a lot of stores, whether or not it's grocery stores or restaurants. The last couple of years, especially during the pandemic, you saw a lot of people engaging in dumpster diving
Yeah.
and saying how like, a lot of money is being recovered or a lot of food is being recovered from. Well, I know.
Yep. I think you did. I have to edit that one. But it's better it started at this point. We can always restart. This way I won't call them in, Sammy. Seems like always having problems for us. Why? Well, whatever.
This would be an option for audio.
Give him a shout out. His name is Just Garden.
I mean, makes a lot more sense, right? Since he's trying to be all like vegetable and gardening and stuff like that.
It's
It's
Gagan or is it Gagan?
Gagan, Gagan,
Yeah. Okay.
same
I'm like
thing.
I just
Gagan.
yeah G A N. So it's like Gagan is what I think it is.
Yeah, but let's pronounce it Gargan just so we can not sound. Oh
Oh
boy.
boy.
Okay, let's try this again.
Yeah. No, we're already
Yeah.
recording.
Okay, so it's still recording. It's amazing. Okay, whatever. We're starting fresh here.
Blah, blah, blah. Hey, so is it just the fact that like food is getting more expensive more than ever, or is it the fact that like it's a plot to really like make us go broke and like eating out of Walmart? Like, what the hell is happening nowadays, bro?
I mean, Walmart. Walmart's just expensive, but yeah, like, people are just fat. They're just making food more expensive so they can eat
Well,
less.
I'm just gonna say, shout out to the man named Mister Just Gagan. I think is his name, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's Justgagan. He is a Canadian who is out there actually trying to combat food scarcity by creating a farmers market and actually bringing in vendors and telling them that the only caveat to being allowed to be at his event is that you have to be cheaper than the regular grocery stores. And I think it's amazing because he's helped thousands of people. He has these great days like potato days where you can bring $1, you bring a bag, and he'll allow you to fill up the entire bag with potatoes for $1. Like it's all high quality food, stuff that's directly from farmers, and it's really helpful. Like shout out to this man. He's a true hero in my eyes.
Yeah, so yeah, Lip was saying, he's an advocate for like farming and community projects and stuff like that. So he's on this whole bender in regards to supporting local agriculture. And yeah, no, I think it's helpful because not only is he fighting and addressing needs like affordability, but he's mitigating such things as food scarcities because we waste a lot of food. Like if you take a trip down a rabbit hole and check out like dumpster diving and just the amount of stuff that just gets wasted. And like we're all culprits of it, right? Like a lot of people don't eat proportions, whatever, that are adequate to their appropriate intake. We waste a lot of food. There's a lot of stuff, and there's
The
a lot.
restaurant industry incredibly wastes a lot of food, especially at the end of the night.
Yeah, so like if we had the systems in place, and that's what he often says, like the food system, the food ecosystem is
Broken.
bonkers. Like, one of his TikToks, he's just like, "Why is it cheaper for me to get food that's shipped up from Mexico than it is from a local farmer?" And it's just one of those things
Blueberries.
where, regardless, it's still food. Um, and it's just one of those things when you take in consideration, it's just like, yeah, there's certain ecosystems that can grow things like avocados. There's no way you can get avocados in Ontario, like grow freshly grown, but like there's a lot of food in that aspect, and it's like why is the system created where we can't be competitive with local markets? Is it something where the government made arrangements with other parties to make them more affordable? Is it something where companies are boxing out certain providers because
I have an
um
idea.
okay.
Well, for me, this all started because I worked in fast food. And what I've realized, it's all about convenience and the quick ease of the customer. Really, what it all got started with was the ability to get a 24-hour burger. We started to price food less and less and less because of the convenience of it. Like a McDonald's cheeseburger was so cheap that the average person didn't need to go to the grocery store to buy meat to pay for a burger middle of the night. Like this is the kind of things that led to food inflation as a whole a lot of the time. And I know it sounds crazy that I'm saying this, but if you think about it, the ability for you to walk into a store now is expensive because of the food scarcity, right?
Hmm.
Like COVID and all of that had everything to do with that. But before COVID, we had abundance. We had so much extra supply of food, a lot, and a lot of.
I disagree. I disagree. One of the things that people are figuring out after COVID, or at least realizing, is that like our system was screwed up from the beginning. COVID just created a scenario where the people who were hanging on by a thread
Mhm.
fell off,
Okay.
right? Either because of affordability or just the practicality of it, right? Like, side note, right? Like, I was watching something on real estate earlier, and one of the guys were simply saying, for us to deal with our real estate shortage, we need to encourage like contractors and builders and all that shit stuff to re-enter the market because of COVID, they weren't able to work. They exited the market, and they were so accustomed to the hardship and the labors and the struggles within the industry that once they left they were just like, yeah, there's no turning back,
No coming
right?
back
Like
in.
there's no incentivization for them to do that. So arcing back to our original conversation, you have a valid point, so I'm not discrediting it, but I feel like it came from those bigger conglomerates being able to say, I'm Loblaws, I'm McDonald's, I'm enter name here, I can buy a farm,
Mhm.
right? So that farmer becomes directly associated with that brand or that supplier, and they are just churning stuff out.
No, you're correct.
Meanwhile, another farmer might be like, "Oh, I have a contract with ABC Co-op, and then I have a
Mhm.
contract with these guys and these guys and these guys." And then if you're not turning out the volume because you're always switching
Mhm.
to a different pricing
Drop, yeah.
structure or something like that for these companies, and let's say a few of them fall off, then you're sitting here and saying, "Oh, do I make enough produce to fill the orders that I have, or do I make more and try to find new supplies?" And then you create that waste dichotomy
Mhm.
on the farm.
But I also
So,
think it's the fact that a lot of the consumers themselves are very bougie. Like we've gotten to a point where you walk into a store and if something has a slight little blemish on it, you move over it. That's along as it comes that comes with the waste. And a lot of the product of what I'm talking about. The reason why food is so expensive is because we've become to a point of looking at food and thinking about it in perfection. We don't know where our food comes to. We don't go to a butcher anymore to ask for a piece of meat to be cut off and then hand it to us.
I
We
mean,
go to a grocery store now and we want everything perfectly wrapped in convenience.
just
And that convenient, I think that convenience has elevated the, like literally either driven food to a point where it's inaffordable on most cases because just like you said, these big box stores now have so much power. They're buying out an entire farm. They're no longer allowing us to pick up goods at a rate where the farmer himself would give you at a discount. Why? Because they got to sell it to those people at such a high rate. Is it the Wi-Fi?
yeah, for some reason it's just not connecting directly into the device.
Can we rig it with Oh yeah, you already have it plugged in.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Well, we should be able to save what we just saved and just continue on from there.
Sure.
Well, let's check the video. Was it good or did it pause a whole bunch?
No, it's just that it didn't have input during that time. The video didn't stop recording. It's just the input source.
Okay, so you want to do it again? Editing wise, I just don't want to make more work.
It's the same diff. We might as well just continue.
Okay, all right. I think you were saying something.
Yeah, so I don't know. I guess we're both right. Let's just agree to disagree on that aspect because
Mhm.
it's a magnitude of stuff, right? Like we could sit here and say big box did it, we could say that fast food did it, we could say that. But
I think they
again,
all did.
yeah,
I think we're both right in that sense. You're all right.
it's converging to the point where we're at right now where affordability is outranking because a lot of people would be like, yo, I'll take a bruised up, you know,
Mhm.
tomato if it meant that it's gonna be $1 difference or something like that. But instead, where your statement came has valid is because of the fact that everyone at the same level, you're like, okay, the same tomato is available, so we're
Mhm.
gonna try and get it. And then it's just like you create those things, and instead of being like, okay, fine, like but back in the day, I would argue that your Fortinos or your Sobeys were the bougie place where
Yep.
you're just like, yo, I'm gonna get that. But then, our no frills are sitting there and saying, um, it's difficult for us to compete on that level because we're still bringing in nice quality things. Like the
Mhm.
supply chain is still the same,
Exactly.
right? So it's kind of like, all right, cool. What do we do? Do we say that the same tomatoes that you get at Sobeys or Fortina, I forget which one supplies the other, right? Whatever. Anyways, like Real Canadian Superstore. Okay, yeah, that's the bougie one for no frills. So if you go to Real Canadian Superstore and you get that tomato, and then you go to No Frills and you're getting the same tomatoes, they'll sit here and say, "Why am I paying an extra $2 for the same tomatoes?" And people would argue and be like, "Okay, you're overcharging me for the same quality stuff." So then it's just like, how do you dequality the
Well, they do
stuff?
though. That's the thing. I'll give you a little secret on how they do. A lot of the places that you're working, that you're buying food places from, it's all about time.
Hmm.
Your Fortinos, your Sobeys, your what's the other one again? They're all in the same superstore. They all buy their fruits first. They have the first go at the bundles of the fruit and vegetables as they come into these warehouse and distribution centers.
Hmm.
The agents who are responsible for quality control will then sign off, get them cleared, and send it directly to them. The places where your discount fruit, like your Price Chopper and your No Frills, comes in is that they buy the stuff that is left over from the last lot.
Right, but the point that I'm trying to get at is that at the end of the day, it's the same food, right?
The quality is different. That's why they are allowed
Well,
to price it
it's
that way.
it's subjectable.
Yeah.
So the point, okay, so let's delineate when it comes to food
Mhm.
versus another product. So
Okay.
we can argue the same thing where it's just like Lexus, Toyota owns Lexus.
That's facts.
So you can sit here and say, okay, there's certain cars that are built off of the certain Lexuses that are built off the Toyota chassis, the Toyota frame. And
Mhm.
I'm not going to sit here and try and name names because there's a few of them.
Mhm.
All right. And you can argue that the reason why you pay a premium is because it's a clear distinction that the luxury version of the car has additional features or additional engineering that justifies the difference. You
Okay, I
can
see your point.
point it
Yeah.
out. But the food, you're pretty much saying that because they sit here and say this is the bristle of tomatoes that came from ABC Farm,
Mhm.
and they're like, oh, these are the fresh ones that are going to go to
Mhm.
Metro,
So you're
and
paying more
then
for just the freshness. That's it. Doesn't make any difference then. No, I see your whole entire
right,
point. Doesn't make it any
and
difference.
then on the flip side, as a farmer, you're put in a duality where it's just like this is the produce I have, unless it's artificially, artificially genetically
Any modified?
modified.
Yeah.
You have to rely on nature to generate these. So if you sit here and you say, I have a contract with a farm and you had to pitch every season to each one of these suppliers,
Mhm.
they might say, oh yeah, last year my farm was good enough to get on the shelf for Tino's Metro, Fall Boy, or whatever,
Mhm.
but then next year they deem that I'm not good enough, so now I'm resignated to no frills. It's just like my projected profit is being skewed
Yeah.
because I was anticipating,
Yeah, I was
shelf
expecting my
life,
next year. Yeah, same
right?
numbers as last year.
So now we're in a situation where these farms are kind of selling out and saying, okay, you know what, I'm going to be the supplier for this or a conglomerate for that. And it boxes out all these smaller chains to kind of work with it. And
Yep.
then they're left with a scratch. So we've created the circle. So we're digressing a lot because of the
Yeah.
fact that, but the point is that we do have a local hero that's going in, Mr. Just Gagan, and he's going around and not only promoting local agriculture because he's trying to be like, yo, like food should be sourced up here and keeping it regional, not to
Mhm.
box out people from far away. But at the end of this day, it contributes to the stake in the investment that we have locally.
That's facts.
Us being directly involved or definitely associated with it will know that, hey, you know what, food is like it's a more communal thing, and I think that's one of the things that we lost with this globalization and the hyper thing where it's just like, your food shooting all over the place. It's just like, yeah, it's picked in Mexico and then it's shipped down to Argentina to be washed and then it's sent over to Cuba so they can put a sticker over it and it's sent to Miami just so they can inspect it and then it's sent to the, like, why?
Yeah, too much work for no
Right?
reason.
Like, well, it's one of those things where it's the supply chain kind of goes on there, and it's just like, okay, you know what? Like, everybody does this, everybody does this. There's an assembly plant
Mhm.
here, there's a processing plant here, and all that shit stuff. But it's just like, okay, fine. Like, now we're in a situation where it's just like when one of those chain links break, or there's a challenge in doing stuff, the whole supply chain gets disrupted.
Yep, we know you're not lying because look what happened to toilet paper. So, ladies and gentlemen, please let us know in the comments and please like, subscribe, and share. And let us know, what do you think about the food scarcity problem? Do you want to follow Mr. Just Garden? And I think everybody should go out there, put it in the comments, tag him, and let him know that we put out this video in solidarity. Until next time.